Look, Sean Kingston was sentenced to 42 months in federal prison. That's 3.5 years for his role in the whole wire fraud scandal with his fucking mother. They was trying to compete with the Joneses. Let's just be real, let's just be honest. This is 3.5 years plus 3 years probation. He was looking for house arrest due to his community charities and his lack of previous convictions, but they said hell to the no. No. Then you got to do some time for that. Yeah, you got to do some time for that because that was ignorant. Ignorant. Look, everybody take Sean Kingston as an example, fam. If you can't afford to have it, you don't need it, fam. What do you think? You gonna get a $400,000 TV knowing damn well you're not gonna pay for it? What are they gonna do? They're gonna press charges. Look, Willie D had his own scandal. He only got a year. He should have got his lawyer. Let's just be honest, but they say Willie D was snitching. Who knows? Drop it in the comments, man. Scars from the Playground. Look, Chance the Rapper Starline album is being praised by fans. This is his first album in 6 years, his first album since being divorced. They calling this the comeback album in hip-hop history ever. You know what I mean? The best. Let's just be honest, let's just be real. All I had to do was hear that joint with Wayne and Smino, bro, that tree. I listened to We Don't Do the Same Drugs every other day. Let's just be honest, let's just be real. This is what the game's been missing, bro. He's got features from Wayne, Thugger, Vince Mensa, Jay Electronica. Look, bro, everybody say this was worth the wait. Me, right now, I haven't heard the project. I haven't heard it. Look, when I get my favorite song, The Tree is one of my favorite songs right now. When I get my favorite song, bro, I don't move no past that. When I move past that, it might be a year from now. Let's just be honest, let's just be real. Drop it in the comments. Shout out Chance the Rapper. Look, Steven Jackson throwing shots at Lil Yachty. Look, Lil Yachty was playing some shit for Black Boy Max that he recorded with the Concrete Boys. In the song, he said, I'm gonna put my knee on her neck. I went George Floyd. Steven Jackson had a problem with that. Why? He said, y'all don't know Big G. You know what I mean? Y'all don't know Big G. That's why y'all laughing at him. On top of that, he say Lil Yachty music has always been whack. Nobody ever liked him. Now he expects to drop George Floyd name in vain and think people are gonna fuck with that. He says hella fucking corny. Look, Lil Yachty caught wind of everything. Even Cal Wayne, look, I don't know what the fuck Cal Wayne was talking about. Even Cal Wayne from Houston called him out respectfully. The man apologized. Now Steve Jackson, you know, he say, it's cool. It's nothing. You apologize, you owned up to it. Look, bro, if it was gonna be that easy for you to forgive and forget, nigga, you shouldn't have even talked about it. Let's just be honest, let's just be real. You should just left it alone. Drop it in the comments, man. Scars from the Playground. Look, Lucian Grainge throwing shots at Drake. He filed a declaration against Drake. He denies being involved in planning and the release of Not Like Us. He said it's farcical, it's nonsensical, groundless, and indeed ridiculous. He didn't know about the album cover, the video, the disc, none of that. He say despite that, despite Drake going against the grain, he say they didn't put hundreds of $1 million into his career to support that, so why would they want to defraud him? Why, fam? You know what I mean? Look, drop it in the comments. This thing is growing wings. Yeah, this thing is growing wings. Drake want to see that contract along with the details on the domestic abuse. He's not stopping. On top of that, he asked the judge to provide a paternity test to prove that Kodak child wasn't actually for day free. Now, it was shut down, but it was the audacity for me. Drop it in the comments. Look, Lil Yachty apologized for his George Floyd lyrics. Look, bro, Concrete Boys, everybody already know the whole collaboration. He said, I put my knee in her neck. I went George Floyd. Look, a lot of people had a problem with that. Houston, Texas. Cal Wayne say, tell him to book a show. Book him in Houston. Tell him it's good. I don't know what that's looking like, Cal Wayne. Hold that down, family. It's hip-hop. Yeah, it's hip-hop, man. The man went outside, bro. Yeah, a nigga feel bad for Big George. You know what I mean? A nigga feel bad for him. But come on, my nigga. This happens to everybody. They talk about everybody. You know what I mean? Everybody ain't gonna see, like they call him, G. Everybody ain't gonna see G the way you see him. You know what I mean? But that man dead and gone. You know what I mean? That man dead and gone. You wasn't fucking with G that hard when all that shit happened. You know what I mean? Nigga ain't never heard of George Floyd. And this don't make it right. Look, Shannon Sharpe released the ultimate Scarface interview. Look, Scarface is a living fucking legend. Unarguably, one of the best hip-hop artists that ever existed, man. Let's just be honest. Let's just be real. This is Face we talking about. Now, this interview is so legendary. Why? Because never have I ever seen the artist take the interview from the standpoint he took it. He walked you through the catalog, fam. Explained you how to write a song, how to create, what came into these feelings, what drugs he was on. Bro, this is legendary. You know, this is legendary. They trying to cancel old Shannon Sharpe out. You know, look, Cat Williams' interview kicked his career off, interview-wise. But that man ain't stopping, fam. This is legendary. Like, instant. It was an instant classic, fam. Everybody must watch. Drop it in the comments, man. Shout out Scarface. Shout out Shannon Sharpe, fam. Look, Joy Badass announces release date for Lonely at the Top. Now this may hit you like, man, I thought that shit had already came out. And like, it was originally set to come out August 1st. He had a whole little thing with Columbia, a whole little shebang where he went online publicly crying about it. Why? He said the album was signed, sealed, and delivered months ago. Why would y'all delay it? He say they getting impeding on his progress. So you know what they did? They stepped out the way. You ain't stepped out the way. You know what? Album ain't done. Album ain't as hot as you think. But guess what? We're going to let you go ahead and put that out. August 29th, this album is dropping. Now, when I seen this man on, I think it's the Jimmy Kimmel show, performing that shit where he looked like Hakeem Lyon. Yeah, he looked like a Hakeem Lyon. Brashear Gray. With all that organized dance moves and pop locking and shit. I just wasn't with it, bro. I'm not too excited, but we're going to give it a listen. Drop it in the comments, man. Shout out Joy Badass, fam. Look, Cardi B released a new single, Imaginary Players. Now, this is from that 9/7 Jay-Z In My Lifetime, Volume 1. Unarguably, one of my favorite tracks ever, fam. So when I heard she was going to do it, you know, I was a little on the fence, you know what I mean? But I remember her from Bodak Yellow, bro. All you got to do is be able to ride the beat, bro. But you got to do it in a way that is fly. This is Imaginary Players. Now, she was kind of on the fence. She didn't know if Jigga was going to like it and approve it or not. But look, Jigga heard that. Jigga liked that. You know what I mean? Once she put that news out there, fam, I had to hear it. I had to hear it. Well, look, the song has finally dropped. Song is fire, fam. The song is fire. Look, Offset did a dirty. When this happens, the woman usually gains an unbeatable sense of confidence. Kind of like the kind of like the Ike Turner and Tina Turner situation, fam. This is what's going on. Drop it in the comments. Look, Kodak Black facing $1 million domestic abuse lawsuit. Look, his baby mama say, you knocked me out, dislocated my jaw. The police came. I protected you. I've always protected you. She says it's always been about protecting Kodak Black's image, so she never wanted to just report nothing. She's filed a formal lawsuit in the civil courts, domestic abuse, and him dodging child support payments. Look, fam, all she got to have is some proof that her jaw was actually dislocated and it's over for him. Well, it's over for his pockets. It ain't turned criminal. You know what I mean? She ain't pressing charges on him. She just wants some money on and some respect. Look, bro, best thing you could do, settle this thing out of court. Because once they get you on the stand, it ain't going to turn out good, bro. The world's going to find out all type of things you don't want them to. I'm just being honest, just being real. Drop it in the comments. Look, Stephen A. Smith throwing shots at LeBron James. He went to Gilbert Arenas' podcast to let it be known, let the world know he does not fuck with him. Doesn't like LBJ whatsoever. There's no relationship, nor will there ever be. He has no desire to speak to him ever again. You know what I mean? A lot of people like, why? This is from that when he approached him courtside like he was gonna beat him up. Stephen A. Smith ain't letting that shit go. You know what I mean? Look, he say He will acknowledge the fact that he's the second greatest basketball player in the history of basketball, and he earned his respect. He will not talk about him unless he's asked. It's what he's paid to do. It's his job. He must broadcast. You know, let's just be honest. Let's just be real. Look, I like Stephen A. Smith. I like him. Why? He's like your old uncle that just he just never stops the shit. Drop it in the comments, fam. Look, Drake hotel room surrounded by hundreds on top of hundreds of fans in Germany. Look, he's on tour with Party Next Door. This is the Some Sexy Songs Shows For You tour in Germany. This is right before his last performance at the Langnix Arena. They were waiting for him to come out. Look, bro, Drake has a following that most people just don't acquire in their career. Let's just be honest. It's just like some Beatles, Michael Jackson type shit. Man, this man cannot be canceled. The line was from the building to the bridge, stretching over 100 feet. Everybody just waiting on him to leave, man. Can you imagine? Drop it in the comments, man. Iceman coming out soon. A lot of people think it's gonna drop in October, but it's looking like it might be shooting for album of the year. I'm just being honest, just being real, fam. Drop it in the comments. Look, Jay-Z retired once after his Black album in 2003. He even threw a retirement party. It was Fade to Black. It was unarguably one of the best shows in hip-hop. Drop it in the comments if you seen it, fam. He stayed retired for 3 years. Came out of retirement when he released his 9th studio album, Kingdom Come, in 2006. He said he was just burnt out, fam. He was releasing album after album, year after year, through the soundtracks, the features, the tours, running Rockefeller Records. Just felt like he needed a break, fam. He looked up one day and he just told himself he was just tired of all the running around and all the bullshit. Look, it lasted for 3 years. Even though the man was still working while he retired, he came out of retirement. Look, he might retire again one day, but now he's got the vacation, so he actually has his win. New album coming soon. Y'all drop it in the comments. Look, Raekwon announces a 30th anniversary tour with Mobb Deep. Well, actually just Havoc. A lot of people know Prodigy died in 2017. This tour would continue his legacy. Look, this is the North American trek. They going everywhere from November and December. It's 19 shows total. Portland, LA, Houston, Dallas, Chicago, New York, Atlanta. They going north, south, east, and west. They promises this tour is something you don't want to miss. It's going to make you see rap concerts different. They're going to really be up there rapping, not with all the lip syncing and holding their crotches. You know what I mean? Look, bro, it's dope. It's dope. Raekwon just released a new album, The Emperor's New Clothes, Wears New Clothes, Under Mass Appeal. I haven't heard the project yet. It just ain't flew by me, but I'm going to have to check that out. Y'all drop it in the comments, man. Scars from the Playground.
If they throw it, I'ma catch it to play the game like Tetris. I'm one of a kind rap, people tell me I'm a clip. I've been working 24 hours, summertime to winter. I ain't really at the chill, it gotta be about business.